All right, so been a bit busy lately, but I did want to just get in this Thurman versus Fundora prediction. I know this fight was supposed to happen, and then it got canceled or whatever. I think Thurman had an injury or something like that. Listen, as a fight fan, I like this fight. As a Thurman fan, I can't really say I liked this fight. Listen, I got a tremendous amount of respect for both fighters. Fundora seems like the type of dude who'll get in there with whoever. I believe he's like 6'6" or something like that. Whatever he is, I mean, fighting at, I think it's 154. Again, forgive me for anything I get wrong on here right now. I have not watched anything on this fight whatsoever yet. Like I said, I've been busy. I'm in the middle of doing shit right now. I've been taking care of my parents. They're going through a rough time right now and shit. So I'm actually in my parents' car. I just got home from doing something. So I just wanted to make this real quick before I run in. So my apologies for anything that I'm off with. But listen, when you got a guy that's that tall, regardless of if I'm accurate with the height or not, when you got a guy that's that tall fighting at that weight class, and he fights the way Fundora does, and he'll, basically fight anybody and stuff like that, I give the kid a hell of a lot of credit. He's a tough kid, exciting fight, stuff like that. Thurman, I got to say the same thing. Listen, Thurman has had his absences and his injuries in the past X amount of years and stuff like that. But, you got to give Thurman his just credit too, right? I mean, Thurman's the type of dude who seems like he'll fight anybody also. Fought Danny Garcia, fought Sean Porter, was going to fight Tim Tszyu when Tim Tszyu was in the middle of wrecking everybody. I mean, I know Tim Tszyu doesn't look that incredible right now, and Fundora beat him twice and stuff like that, but now he's going and fighting the dude that beat Tim Tszyu twice. So I give Keith Thurman a hell of a lot of credit. My thing is this, and I'm going to just be quite frank with you. I think Fundora is going to win the fight, but that's not really what I don't like about it as a Keith Thurman fan. I just feel like this is one of those fights, and there's actually a couple of these coming up. Chisora versus Wilder, I'll make a video on that also. Some of these fights are just, quite frankly, making me nervous. I feel like when you have these scenarios where, and I'm not saying Keith Thurman's washed, but Keith Thurman was a top dog at 147 for quite some time. And, he had the loss to Pacquiao, but again, that was after injuries, that was after a layoff. Still a very close fight. Got dropped in the first round, still made it a very close fight, finished the fight strong, stuff like that. So, Keith Thurman is no slouch. I mean, I know he had the scenario against Collazo where he got hurt to the body. I believe he was rocked by, I want to say, was it Josecito Lopez? I think it was some. So there have been some subpar Keith Thurman performances, even though he won the fight. It's kind of like, I don't know if Keith should be getting hurt by a guy of that caliber. Not to shit on Josecito Lopez or Luis Collazo. Both very, very tough dudes and stuff like that. But those are not the guys that, if I was going to say Thurman had a tough time with somebody, or Thurman, squeaked out a win, or Thurman almost lost, you would think it would be to the guys like the Danny Garcias, the Sean Porters, and stuff like that. You wouldn't necessarily think it would be against the guys like Josecito Lopez and Luis Collazo and stuff like that. So that's the only point that I'm trying to make by saying that. But, and I've been saying this for a while, and I know this is going to sound kind of cliche because it's the very simple narrative that's going around lately. I just don't know. Mentally, I know what Keith Thurman has left, because if Keith Thurman didn't have anything left mentally, he wouldn't be taking fights like this. So I know Keith Thurman's got a lot left in the tank as far as his hunger, as far as his desire and his drive and his will to want to be in the ring and want to be in fights and stuff like that. Keith Thurman wants it. There's no question about that. But he's had, whatever it's been, 2 fights in 6 years, or, again, forgive me if I'm off with my exact numbers here. I really didn't look anything up. I have not watched any videos on this fight, nothing whatsoever. But I like to get these prediction videos or these breakdown videos, whatever you want to call them, out as early as I possibly can, because I like to give whoever's going to watch them time to hear what I have to say, digest what I have to say, and then, you can add that to whatever you already had in your head about the fight, or maybe you knew nothing of it and you're just curious, or maybe you're looking to place a bet and you want to see an objective point of view with somebody pointing out both sides of the fence or whatever it is. But if I do that, a day or two before the fight, obviously not as many people are going to have time to go check that out. So I try to get these done as quickly as I possibly can, even though I may not have the proper amount of information that I would like to have. And listen, things could change. Maybe I see something in the build up to the fight that makes me change my pick. Maybe I see something at the weigh-in that makes me change my pick, or whatever the case is. But right now, from what I just generally know of Fundora and what I just generally know of Thurman, listen, can Thurman win this fight? Absolutely, Thurman can win this fight. And I say that for two reasons. Maybe three reasons, actually. Number one, Thurman has shown that he's capable of winning a fight when people count him out of it. Like, we've been saying that Thurman's done for years now, and he came back and beat that Australian dude. Again, not to say that dude was anybody special, but when you hear Keith Thurman's fighting and it's like, oh, Keith Thurman's done, Keith Thurman's washed, and then he goes and he knocks the guy the fuck out in like the third round or whatever the case is. So Keith Thurman has shown that he is absolutely capable of taking what people are saying and throwing it, right back in their face. Keith Thurman also was a world-class fighter at one point. And again, that's not to say that he's done right now, but this is a guy who at one point in his career was one of the top dogs and stuff like that. So is it far-fetched to think that Keith Thurman could win this fight? No, it's not. The third reason I say Keith Thurman is capable of winning this fight is because Keith Thurman is a very smart individual in general. He's very in tune with himself. He treats himself and his body pretty well from what I understand. And the guy's got punching power. I mean, this is not to say Fundora can't take a punch, because Fundora's a very tough dude. But we have seen Fundora get dropped and stopped before. So it's not like somebody like Keith Thurman is not capable of setting Fundora up and landing a big shot and winning this fight. It's definitely possible. We've also seen Keith Thurman, he has the nickname one time, was known as a very big puncher, had a very, very high knockout percentage at one point in his career, and then towards the tail end of his career, that started to fade a little bit. But the thing is, Keith Thurman was never the type of guy like a Mike Tyson, for example. And this is not to say that Mike Tyson wasn't a great boxer, because I actually think Mike Tyson was a very underrated boxer. I think it was underrated by, overshadowed, I should say. His boxing skills and his boxing ability were overshadowed by his insane antics and his punching power. That's what people notice first. So people tend to not really notice how actually great of a boxer Mike Tyson was, especially in his prime. Keith Thurman, I think, kind of gets like the same rep. He's not a Mike Tyson, bro. Keith Thurman is not somebody that, if he doesn't get you out of there quick or you're not taking his shit, that he's going to mentally break and not be able to win the fight. Keith Thurman can box, and Keith Thurman can win fights on points, and Keith Thurman is definitely capable of surprising some people and shit like that. So, again, is it out of the realm of possibility that Keith Thurman wins this fight? Definitely not. But I just think a lot of things factor into this. Obviously you have the height, the size of Fundora. We also have the fact that, like I said, it's not a dude that, okay, yeah, he's tall and he's long, but if you hit him, he goes out. Like, Fundora's not a bitch, bro. Fundora is not a glass-jawed person that I would sit there and say, all right, it doesn't matter. Keith's going to hit him at some point, and that's going to be the end of Fundora. That's not the type of fighter that we're dealing with. And I just think with the height and the size of Fundora, the age of both of these guys, Fundora seeming to probably be getting better every fight, whereas, Father Time would tell us that Keith Thurman is probably trending in the wrong direction, even if he looked good in his last fight or whatever the case is. There probably will come a fight sometime soon where Keith Thurman comes out and we're just like, that's it, he's done, he got old. People are already saying it, but like I said, he has, kind of thrown that back in some people's faces with some of his performances. So I'm not saying that Keith Thurman is done now or done yet, but it's probably coming in the very near future, and it could be this fight. And that's the part of me that this fight kind of makes me worried or nervous, is that should this be that fight for Keith Thurman? And again, I'm not just going off the fact that he's 30-something years old. I'm not just going off the fact that he's only had 2 fights in X amount of years. I'm not just going off the fact that he's happily married. I'm not just going off the fact that he's had injuries the past 5, 6, or whatever years. This is a fight that was already signed, that he was already supposed to fight, and he already had to pull out because of an injury. So to run with the narrative that, oh, well, I don't know if Keith Thurman is what he used to be and he might not be 100% and stuff like that. I mean, those are valid claims, bro. He's already pulled out of this fight once before. In no way, shape, or form am I indicating he's scared, but he's obviously had a lot of injury problems recently, and he is getting up there in age. So I just think it's one of those things where it could be a perfect storm that ends really badly, and Keith Thurman is not the guy that I want to see that happen to. Listen, all that being said, I think this is going to be a good fight. I don't want to see Keith Thurman get punished the way that we saw Tim Tszyu get punished in the second fight with Fundora. I would hate to see Thurman go out like that, so I don't want to see that happen. I like both of these guys. It's not that I like one guy and I dislike the other guy, but I'm a big underdog guy, and I've been a Keith Thurman fan since before Fundora was even a pro. So, I'm pulling for Keith Thurman. I would like to see Keith Thurman pull off the win. I would like to see Keith Thurman surprise some people, including myself. But at the end of the day, I just think the age, the injury factor, the height, the size, the style of fight that I think it's probably going to be, I just see Fundora wearing him down. Now, Thurman's a veteran. I could see, even if Thurman loses, I could see him, finding a way to get through this fight without getting stopped. But I do think there's a real threat for Thurman to take some pretty severe punishment in this fight. Like I said, I'll be pulling for Thurman. I really won't be upset no matter who wins, because I do like both of these guys, but I don't want to see Thurman get pummeled the way that Tim Tszyu got pummeled in his second fight with Fundora. But at the end of the day, I think I'm going to have to go with Fundora to win this fight by decision. So that's my pick there. Peace.